Line up 4 babies. 4 small, real, breathing newborns, side by side, anywhere in the human past you want to stand. For almost the entire history of our species, one of those 4 will not live to see a single birthday. Not because anyone was careless, not because these were savages who did not love them. 1 in 4 to 1 in 5, gone in the first year, in the best of times, to a fever, to a cold night, to nothing anyone could put a name to. Keep counting. By the age those same children should be starting school, closer to 2 of the 4 are in the ground. About 40 out of every 100 human beings ever born did not reach the age of 15. That is the water your ancestors swam in, every single one of them. So how did they do it? How did a naked, toolless, medicineless human being keep a baby alive when almost everything was trying to take it? Hold that question, because first you have to throw out the version you were told. You have heard your whole life that ancient people died at 30, that a caveman was an old man at 35. It is one of the most repeated facts about the human past. And it is a lie, not a small one. It is a lie told entirely by dead babies. The number 30 is an average, and an average with a mountain of tiny graves piled on one end is not telling you when people died. It is telling you how many started and stopped almost at once. Pull the infants out of the maths, and the whole picture flips. A hunter-gatherer who made it through childhood could very reasonably expect to see 60, 70, sometimes more. Grandparents were not rare. Old age was not a myth. The rare thing, the thing that broke hearts on a loop for 300,000 years, was getting a baby through its first few years alive. And the creature they were trying to save was, honestly, a disaster. A human newborn is the most helpless large animal baby on Earth. A foal stands and runs the day it is born. A baby chimp clings to its mother's fur within the hour. A human baby cannot hold up its own head. It cannot cling. It cannot warm itself. It arrives half-finished, screaming, blind with need, on a 9-month clock, when a brain like ours really needs closer to 18 or 20 months in the making. We are all, every one of us, born too soon. And it gets worse. A single human child, from birth to the day it can feed itself, costs somewhere between 10 and 13 million calories to raise. 10 to 13 million. That is far more food than any one mother, pregnant and nursing and exhausted, could gather by herself in any landscape, in any season. By the plain arithmetic of it, you should not be here. The baby was too helpless. The odds were too cruel. The bill was too high for one person to pay. And yet, an unbroken chain of babies made it through anyway. Every one a link, all the way down to you, sitting here, grown. 3 things tell you how they did it. There is a 50-day-old girl buried 10,000 years ago in a cave in the Italian Alps, laid to rest under more than 60 carved shell beads and the talon of an eagle owl. There is a spouted cup of hardened clay, lifted from a child's grave, that turns out to be the world's first baby bottle. And there is a woman, long past the age of having children of her own, who outworks every young mother in the band. Behind all 3 sits one quietly strange truth about how a species of over-helpless, over-expensive, half-finished babies clawed its way across the ages. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. So start with the body itself, and the strangest survival trick of all. Because a human mother's answer to a baby born too soon was simply to keep growing it on the outside. For the first months of a life, her own body was the entire survival system. She carried the baby against her skin nearly every waking hour, and most of the sleeping ones. Anthropologists have a cold name for what a newborn really is. Secondarily altricial, born at a stage of helplessness that other primates finish inside the womb. And they have a warmer name for the fix, the 4th trimester. 3 more months of pregnancy, run in the open air, with the baby on the outside. Skin against skin kept it warm when it could not warm itself. The sway of a walking hip kept it calm, and the breast was never more than a turn of the head away. There was no crib in another room, because there were no rooms. There was a body, and there was the band. For a creature that could not do a single thing for itself, being carried was not comfort. It was life support. Now, here is where humans get strange. Even among the apes, watch a chimpanzee give birth, and you notice something. She will not let anyone touch the baby. Not her mother, not her sister, not her closest ally. For months, no one else holds it. Often, no one else even comes near. A gorilla is the same. The mother is the entire world of that infant, and if she fails, it dies with her. Now watch a human human birth in almost any foraging society on Earth, you see the opposite. Within hours, sometimes within minutes, the newborn is passed around. Among the Ife of the Ituri forest, a baby is held by around 14 different people in the first hours of its life. Among the Aka, an infant has, on average, 14 caregivers besides its mother, and by a few months old, it spends more time in those other arms than in its mother's. The American anthropologist Sarah Blaffer Hrdy gave this a name, cooperative breeding, and she built a whole book, Mothers and Others, on one radical claim. We did not survive as a species of devoted single mothers. We survived as a species of shared babies. Fathers, aunts, older sisters, uncles, cousins, and unrelated friends all became what Hrdy calls alloparents, other parents. Each one a spare pair of hands, a spare source of food, a spare set of eyes on a child that could not watch itself. Remember that impossible bill, 10 to 13 million calories per child. One mother cannot pay it. A village breaks it into pieces small enough that everyone can. And feel how strange that turns your picture. The lonely, self-sacrificing mother, doing every part of it herself, is not the ancient design. She is the modern accident. For 300,000 years, no mother did this alone, not once. And of all those extra hands, one pair mattered more than the rest. She is the most unexpected hero in the whole story, because she is old. She is finished having children of her own. By the cold logic of biology, she should not even be here. Almost no other animal lives long past the age when it can breed. A female chimp who stops reproducing usually dies soon after, but human women routinely live for decades beyond their last child, healthy and strong. And for a long time, no one could say why evolution would build a body that outlasts its own fertility. Then, in the 1990s, an anthropologist named Kristen Hawkes sat down to watch the Hadza of Tanzania, and she watched the grandmothers, the hardest working forager in the whole camp, the one who dug the most roots and carried back the most food, was very often a woman in her 60s, and she was not feeding herself, she was feeding her grandchildren. Hawkes and her colleagues found something precise in the numbers. A Hadza child's weight normally tracks how hard its own mother forages, except when a new baby arrives. The moment the mother is pregnant or nursing again, the older child's weight stops following its mother and starts following its grandmother instead. When the mother's arms are full, the grandmother becomes the thing keeping the next one alive. This is the grandmother hypothesis, and it carries a startling idea in its tail. It suggests that menopause itself, that strange human full stop, may exist because grandmothers who quit having their own babies and poured everything into their grandchildren simply raised more survivors. We may be a species with grandmothers because grandmothers are the reason the species is here. There is one last piece, and it flows, quite literally, from the mother. Breast milk was never just food. For a newborn whose immune system was barely switched on, it was a living defense. An infusion of antibodies and infection fighters, delivered warm, several times an hour, that a tin of formula cannot fully copy even today. And it shifts over time, front-loading protection when the baby is most fragile, then turning toward fat and calories as it grows. The ancient answer to a defenseless immune system was to plug the baby straight into its mother's. But the milk did something else, something no one planned and everyone leaned on. In the 1980s, the researchers Melvin Connor and Carol Worthman measured how the Juhawansi mothers of the Kalahari actually nursed. The answer was astonishing. Short feeds, roughly 4 times an hour, day and night, for years. That relentless suckling quietly switched off the mother's ovulation, and she did not conceive again for about 4 years. Weaning came late, around 2.5 to 3.5 years old, in peoples as far apart as ancient Japan and southern Africa. That 4-year gap was not an accident of hardship. It was the survival technology. It meant every baby got years of milk, years of carrying, years of undivided arms before arrival arrived. Space the children out, and each one clears the deadly early years before the next begins. Pack them close, and you can lose them both. Which brings you back to the 3 things. The clay bottle first. Those little spouted cups found tucked beside infants in graves across Neolithic and Bronze Age Europe, still holding traces of animal animal milk. That is the first formula, invented the moment a mother's own milk failed and the band refused to simply let the baby die. Then Neve, the 50-day-old girl in the Ligurian cave, buried 10,000 years ago beneath more than 60 pierced shell beads, 4 pendants, and an eagle owl's talon. Each bead perhaps an hour of somebody's patient work. She tells you the last thing, the thing underneath all of it. A 50-day-old baby was already completely a person, mourned like one, sent onward loaded with treasure by people who had almost nothing to give. So, how did ancient humans keep babies alive? They did not do it the way you picture it. They did not do it alone, in a quiet room, with a machine to warm the milk and a doctor on call. They did it with a crowd. They kept the baby on a body every hour of the day. They passed it through a dozen pairs of arms before it could smile. They fed it from a grandmother who should not, by the rules of any other animal, still have been alive. They spaced the years so each child got everything before the next one came. And when the milk failed, they poured it from a cup of clay rather than let go. The thing we treat as timeless and natural, one exhausted parent alone behind a closed door doing all of it, is the strangest and newest arrangement of all. The real human way was never the lonely one. So the next time you feel the pull to hand a baby to the person beside you, or you watch a grandmother who cannot stop feeding a child who is already full, or you feel, holding a newborn, that this is simply too much for one person to carry, you are right. It always was. You are not failing at something ancient humans found easy. You are missing the crowd that was always meant to be standing around you. You did not survive your first year because of one person. You survived it because of everyone. And every hand that ever reached in to steady a baby that was not its own is still there, in the oldest instinct you have, quietly reminding you what you came from.